Validating a new idea is an absolutely critical part of the process, but almost all of the entrepreneurs and startups that I've worked with over the last 20 years have not really wanted to do it or not done it very well. I get it. No one wants to be told that their great new idea isn't going to work, but have a think about how much money, time, effort and energy you're going to have to put into launching this product. Isn't it better to know early on whether it's actually going to make you a good return on your investment? Do keep watching this video to find out the critical things about validating a new product idea before you end up wasting loads of time and money. Most business founders and entrepreneurs don't put enough time and effort and money into this stage. They launch too quickly into the exciting bits in terms of prototyping or marketing or finding the right team or whatever it is. But you don't want to put all that effort in and all that money into a new idea only to find that it exists already. I recently read that actually 30% of all research and development work is just duplicating something that's been done. So that gives you some idea as to, even in big companies, how little validation is done. Now, I strongly suggest that you go through these 4 key steps as part of your validation before you get stuck into developing your product properly. The first step is searching. I'd suggest using Espasnet to search existing intellectual property like patents. That's a really good starting point. I'd suggest looking at your competitor websites, what other companies exist in this field already who might be doing something similar, and see what they've come up with. And we are always surprised at the number of people who haven't done some basic searching before they come to us with their concept. Now, if you're launching a new product into a new sector that you haven't worked in before, you haven't got an existing brand, you're not already selling products in that space, and you're going to be competing effectively against existing companies in that space, then you really do need to have something that is novel and unique and different. Me Too products are very, very hard for a startup business to launch successfully because you're competing against existing brands who already have marketing collateral, they're already known by the customers, they've already got route to market, and they're buying in bigger volumes than you will be when you start out, and therefore they can get more competitive pricing for those products than you can anyway. So it is an uphill struggle for a startup to launch into a new industry sector, and therefore you really do need something that is genuinely different, innovative and unique if you are going to succeed in your new business venture. The next thing to check out is whether there's any barriers in terms of certification and testing. So sometimes people come up with great new ideas, but then they realize the reason it's not on the market is because you can't get whatever it is through the necessary standards and testing to be able to certify it and sell it within the UK or European or global markets. Now, this often occurs with medical products where there's certain things within the standards that you have to hit, and what you've come up with may be a great new idea, but it just won't get through those standards. So that's often worth checking out in this early stage as well. My company can help with that, or it might be you want to talk to a test house that specializes in your particular kind of product type, and they can hopefully give you some advice about the standards and what might or might not pass. The third thing is the market. Does anyone really want to buy this? Now, conducting early stage market research on a brand new innovative idea that's completely different from anything else on the market is really, really difficult. My company does do this. We tend to work up some initial concept sketches. We maybe do some storyboards where we show the users interacting with the product. We work out what the key benefits are and how to communicate them, and then we send it out to all these different people, or we sit down with a smaller focus group, compile all those results, and what we're really looking for is what would a person pay for this new product? Because unless we can get to a point where what they're prepared to pay is 5 times more than what you can make it for, then it isn't going to be commercially viable. And we find that people often are very enthusiastic about new products and they definitely would buy them, but then you find out that the price they're prepared to pay just isn't enough to make the numbers work. So that really is something that's critical in those early stages. Now, this can be very difficult to do safely unless you've got intellectual property protection in place already. There are ways to do it under confidentiality agreements, but there is an ongoing small risk there. You just need to be aware of that before you reveal your idea to anyone. One of the other major parts of validating a new concept is often to test the new functionality. So this often is through a proof of concept or proof of principle prototype. I can show you one of my ideas that I've been working on or was working on during the lockdowns. So this is a proof of concept of a proving oven. So there are proving ovens that exist already. There's a new feature of this one that makes it different from those other proving ovens. And what I did to initially prove and demonstrate the concept is to create this foam box, and in it there's a reptile heater. So it's just used for heating the tanks that reptiles live in. And then this is a controller, it's off the shelf, and you can set the temperature and it will maintain then the temperature inside here. And I wanted to try and work out what size of heater I needed, because that heating element is the most expensive part, and whether this kind of wattage heating element was going to be enough or whether I was going to need significantly more. And that was all part of trying to establish what the actual cost of this unit might be, and whether that was something that, if I multiplied it by 5, would get to a retail price that people were prepared to pay. Now, I learned quite a lot from building this proof of concept. There's various issues with it, including the weight of the door on the hinges, this system here for how it's closing. I've got a new design for, because this is slightly awkward. It's not quite tall enough for certain things in terms of proving if you made a batch of, say, 24 croissant or whatever else. So from this, I learnt a lot of different things about how the product could be improved. And I demonstrated actually that this size of reptile heater is okay for maintaining a certain temperature, but if you put a batch of cold dough in there and you want it to prove at, say, 30 or 35 degrees, it takes a long time to get up to temperature, and that's a problem. And again, this is all part of the kind of early stage proof of concept work. It doesn't look particularly tidy. I haven't bothered to put this together properly. I've just taped it. And it's all about speed. It's how quickly and cheaply could I build something to test that basic principle of how powerful a wattage heater that I needed. So yeah, and that's the type of early stage proof of concept prototype that can actually be used to demonstrate the core functionality, prove whether it works or not, and then start to give you an idea as to whether the costs are going to work. So there's just 4 things you can do as part of early stage validation of a product idea. In most cases, that validation work should continue. So after you've built more advanced prototypes, you probably want to do some more market research to make sure that you're still producing something that customers want, that you haven't done anything that now is putting them off, that any new features you've added are actually something that those customers are prepared to pay more for to justify the production cost of those features. And equally, your IP searches may need to be refreshed, because as you add in new features or things change or you take out features, you want to still check that you've got something that you'll be able to get some level of protection on. So it's not like it's a one-off validation, but what you are trying to do is get to a point where you understand the risks, that you've looked at some of those risks, and that you're comfortable with the level of risk you're taking, and you have a plan for how you're going to continue to validate your concept as you go through the development process.